Eagles. Eagles.
Wednesday edition of Players 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, here with you live on a New Year's Eve edition of the show. Johnny Mac, how you doing this morning, brother?
Doing well. Yeah, happy New Year's Eve. Get ready to say Happy New Year. What's the cutoff to say Happy New Year? I say very early in the process. You're like January 10th, you can't go past January 10th. That's my thought process.
Yeah, that feels a little rich to me, John. January 10th. I'm thinking like Jan 6th or 5th or something.
All right,
I guess
even better. Even better.
John, yeah, so we got week 18 coming up, John. This is going to be, I'm assuming it's going to be somewhat of a snooze fest game. Any indication on where you are on the Birds playing their starters? They do have the chance for the number 2 seed, John. And, I get this comment all the time of people saying to me, oh, don't be scared, Zander. You should be good in the 3 seed. And I'm like, I'm not scared to watch a game from my couch. I think there is better paths to the Super Bowl for the Eagles. And the number 2 seed to me looks like the best path. And if that's an option, if I'm the Birds, I'm doing everything I can to win the game. Now, I also understand, the complexity of doing that because you probably do want to get some guys some rest. Jalen Phillips has already played 17 games. You obviously have Lane Johnson, Jalen Carter, some guy, Landon and Cam who've been banged up. What's your general thought? You're where you are right now and what you think the Birds will do this weekend with the 2 seed on the line potentially?
Yeah, I mean, there's rest guys, there's play guys, and there's in between, which I still think people should pay more attention in between because that's the most logical scenario. And by that, I mean, you're scoreboard watching, it's out of your control. So, I mean, if Chicago's ahead 21-0 like Dallas was a couple of years ago, you pull your guys. The problem is a couple of years ago when they pulled their guys, they already had a couple guys hurt that weren't able to play in the playoffs. So that's sort of the thought process. I kind of get the feeling they're going to rest guys simply because, a couple hints. One, Nick's talking and how he expressed it earlier in the week on Monday. And then, sort of this roster machination that happened with Charlie Hewlett, that's an indication they want to elevate Patrick Johnson or Andre Sam. Well, why would they want to do that if they didn't want to play him on Sunday? Kind of little hints that point to that direction. And then they'll never say it, but I believe that they think they can win with Tanner McKee and Tank Bigsby and company against Josh Johnson.
Yeah, I think they can too. I think they're right about that.
On top of it. Now, again, they would never say that, but I think that's a part of it as well. And then again, you can't control what Detroit does, even if they're going to play their guys, and we'll get a better indication of that today. Dan Campbell might show up today and say, I'm going to play Kyle Allen and I'm going to play whoever their backup running backs are, and then it's like, what do you do? So I think the most logical scenario is certain guys are going to sit. Lane Johnson, obviously, I can't imagine this will be the return game.
Yeah, no way.
And obviously, if you're starting, if you're going to sit Jalen Hurts, you're going to sit the majority of the offensive line. Some guys may have to play, like Brad and Tyler. Again, you only have 53 players, so it's not like preseason.
What are they going to do with long snapper?
Well, Charlie's
you need
back.
A roster spot, but
no,
he's on practice
back.
now, right? So
Yeah.
I guess will they
So
just elevate him?
Yeah,
Okay.
they have 3. So the reason they ran out of elevations for Patrick Johnson and Andre Sam, so you can't elevate them. You now you have 3, which you don't need 3 for Charlie, and you can just elevate them for game day. So that's sort of the manipulation they're doing, which was a clear indication to me that they're gonna rest a bunch of guys.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. Looks like that's what they're going to do. John, you think that's the right decision for the team to do? with the 2 seed on the line. I understand what your point is about the Bears. You know, doesn't mean I don't want to handle my part of the business. At least that's my perspective. Now I
Well,
get
I would play players and scoreboard watch. That's what I would do.
Yeah, me too. I think that makes the most sense. Now I don't think they'll actually do that. Maybe they will. We will find out. You know, the tough part about it is, John, like if you rest somebody, you kind of got to rest most, I would think. Like if you're going to rest anybody on the offensive line, you're not putting your starting quarterback back there. You know,
No.
obviously you're not putting your starting quarterback back there. You're going to play AJ Devontae, Goddard. So it's got probably a domino effect of one thing leads to another, and most guys will be rested, at least most of the primetime players on the football team. John, you got the Commanders coming up. You had the coordinators speak yesterday, Vic Fangio and Kevin Patullo. Fangio didn't say as much as I'm used to him saying. What did you make of those guys yesterday? Let's start with Kevin Patullo, John. He was asked about the slow and stagnant conservative second half. What did you make of Kevin Patullo's thoughts yesterday on the game? And then what anything you see you guys?
Yeah. Oh, well, I saw a couple of people run with sometimes you run just to run, because I was the one who asked that question. Like, is that a surprise to anyone? Do you think that teams don't run to run? They did it a bunch last year when they're closing out games. They just run the football to close out games.
Yeah, right.
I mean, like like, no offense, I'm like, some of these criticisms are insane, and I got somebody saying that, oh, you should say it's the old Andy Reid. I got to do a better job. This guy's out there explaining what's going on as best he can with the limitations, which as a reporter is what I want. I don't want, I got to do a better job. That's Nick.
Yeah, right.
I don't get shit out of that. So what do you want? Number one, that's, because I got a bunch of this yesterday. You don't want them to explain things, or you do want them to explain things. First of all, you got to come to Jesus moment. What do you want as a fan? I would argue you should want what you're getting. And now, but ultimately that's not the problem. The problem is the offense stinks. And why does the offense stink? Well, I think it's been the same all year, and he explained it again. When you're at third and long, you stink. Is there anybody in third and long all the time that doesn't stink in the history of football?
That's a question I don't know the answer to.
If you're failing, well, I'll make it easy for you. They stink.
No.
But good offenses aren't in third and longs. Simple as that. So
does it simply boil down to the run blocking on first and second down? I mean,
in Buffalo, it did. In Buffalo, it did. It's always something different. Earlier in the season, it was the penalties you're getting behind the sticks. All these penalties,
and they have cleaned that up. To their credit,
they have
cleaned
that up. In the Buffalo game, if you watch that second half, the interior of the offensive line just got destroyed against a middling defensive front.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is a bad sign.
And on the rewatch, when you're not watching it live, where you can kind of zoom out a little bit, I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Feels like every single play they were getting shredded in there.
Which is, and then you can make some arguments. Well, why don't you go away from that? You're having a bad game. And those are legitimate criticisms, I think, because at some point you got to switch it up. And I've often talked about, getting a layup in the passing game, which I don't think they do very well. And things like that. But, anybody who watches that Buffalo game with an objective viewpoint, they got whipped up front. I mean, whipped up front. Look at some of those Saquon runs. He's, the one run, he made the first guy missed 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Where's he going? Then there's two other guys.
Yeah. I think, John, the question, because I do agree with you. And I think anybody who does, who did look at the game or maybe a rewatch or whatever the case may be, it's a little harder to catch in real time. But I think the question would be, John, is there is a lot of bad offensive lines around the league, and the Eagles, while it hasn't been what we're used to, it's not the bottom. And why
No.
are we struggling? Why is the Eagles struggling so much more than others around the league who have struggling offensive lines? Like,
Well, number one, they're
we have
not.
Saquon Barkley in our offensive line. Well, we do. We are on first down, John. We're one of the worst third down teams in the
Oh,
NFL this year.
yeah. I mean,
Because they live in third and long. To your point.
yeah. I was talking about the offense as a whole. As I said, in Buffalo, that was the problem. That hasn't been the problem every week, or to the degree it was in Buffalo. But yeah, and again, it's always it might be, pre-snap penalties, putting you in 2nd and 15 or whatever. This has been a common theme, but for different reasons week to week when they have these poor performances. And that's the frustrating part, because when they clean it up, they're pretty efficient. And that's to the point of you rarely see like a team that's so bad, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. But when they get a first down, all of a sudden they score, pretty consistently. Usually if you have a bad offense, you have a bad offense. If you have a good offense, you have a good offense. They have a bad offense and a good offense, depending on how they kickstart the drive, any particular drive. When they get that first down, you got to feel pretty good, because they usually get efficient. I can't explain it. They can't explain it. If they could, they'd fix it. But I mean, the obvious problem is lack of effectiveness, efficiency, whatever word you want to use on early downs, which is putting them in, that's exactly where every defense wants you. And you see in point, well, so-and-so made a 3rd and 15. Yeah, everybody does eventually. You don't make 3rd and 15s consistently.
Yeah, right. That's not a way to operate as an offense. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just that part of it's common sense. And that's where Lane Johnson shut it down, unfortunately. Again, and by the way, these guys shouldn't shut it down, but they do. It was the Giants game, which was obviously poor up there, obviously a poor performance. And, he talked about, he used the word predictable, and everybody ran with it. And it's Lane's fault. He said the word about 15 times between interviews with reporters, and Josina Anderson was there that day. So he did whatever her show she is. And he said the same things. And what he was saying is, we are predictable in 3rd and long, but everybody just heard predictable. Everybody's predictable in 3rd and long.
Yeah, right.
You're either throwing it or you're running a draw play. Maybe a screen. Everybody's predictable. That's why it makes it so difficult. And he was saying, and that's why you want to be in 3rd and manageable, because you can do it when you're 3rd and 4 or under.
Right.
Everything's on the table.
Exactly.
And that's what he was saying. But we live in a clip-based society. And they take 10 seconds. You see what Jalen Hurts this morning. I don't know if you saw the Hard Knocks thing with the quarterback meeting with Scott Leffler. It's like a 10-second clip, and everybody's going berserk over it.
What was the clip? I didn't even see it. Was it on? I wasn't on social media last night.
I can't even. Honestly, I can't.
See if I can get it.
Honestly, I can't even hear what he's saying completely, because Jalen, is so understated. But basically, Scott Leffler was in there talking about it's going to rain and we got to get this shit going no matter what. No excuses, essentially, which they did not do in hindsight. And Jalen said something back that was, and again, I don't really know what he said, but I do know people are going nuts about it. And it's like a 10-second clip, if that.
When you say nuts, though, direct me on which way they're going nuts. At Jalen, at Leffler, where?
Jalen getting upset.
Jalen got upset that Leffler said
Well,
that.
I don't know if you. Again.
Yeah,
I
right.
don't.
Okay, we're talking about Hard Knocks here.
It's literally an 11-second clip. I just pulled it up.
Is it a potential showing of some aloofness, John? One of the words of the year this year.
Well, have you seen his Sprite commercial?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, the guy's aloof. The guy is, you got this goopy TV broadcaster popping up everywhere he is, and there's like no, yeah, he's aloof, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. That's just his personality. But yeah, anyway, you'll see it. It's all over the place.
Yeah, I see it on my feed. I didn't watch it yet, but I do see it on there now.
And it's really, at the end of the day, it's completely meaningless, but I have a feeling it's going to blow up like pretty significant. And again, if anybody in the chat can explain to me what he's saying, because I can't really hear what he's saying. Other than it's basically said, we have to fix this. And I don't know, it's either he got upset that he was singling out him, I think, basically.
Singling out him, he's the quarterback of the football team.
Yeah, I know. But, it is what it is. Again, it's going to get overblown. This shit happens all the time.
Yeah, I just heard it doesn't sound like much of a classic Philly. We'll turn it into something, but it doesn't seem too big. John, one of my gripes on the offense is you get in these third and long situations, and then they don't even try and get it. Like, all right, the draws, I understand. You tell me that. Yeah, but why when they throw, John, like they'll throw short of the sticks. And I'm like, if you're out there trying to convert a third and long, what is throwing at 6 yards, 8 yards going to do? I don't understand why they do that. I mean,
again, they're
take the draw.
Well, you don't take shots when you're ball security conscious. Now, occasionally, again, first of all, I think it's overblown. The first half, they got a couple third and longs, extending plays. So, generally when they get those 3rd and 15s, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be Jalen extending the play and making a play, rather than just ripping it like a dig route over the middle. You're not going to see that a ton. Maybe some go routes. But yeah, I mean, which is not a bad thing, by the way, if you're converting 3rd and long because he's extending the play, and he did that in that one drive like 2-3 times in the first half. But yeah, the assumption that you should always throw it on 3rd and 15 is a bad assumption. And truthfully, when somebody runs a draw on like that, I brought that up a couple of weeks ago. Like, that is a staple of every NFL offense. Like, if you're 3rd and 15 inside your own 10-yard line, not a lot of teams are going to try to. If you will, the Detroits, the Green Bays, teams that have really high volume passing attacks aren't going to give up drives for the most part. But most teams are going to, draw it up and try to get 7 yards and get a decent punt and try to flip field position. So yeah, that's overblown. Like, you can't just say, oh, it's 3rd and 15. You have to try to get a first down.
Yeah, but with 3rd and 12, they throw 10.
Well, that's again, in the same game we're talking about, they converted a couple 3rd and longs.
Yeah, they did. That 3rd and 10 to AJ Brown was a great freaking throw by Hurts. Rolling out.
That's just in the moment when they're 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 15 and they throw it short of the sticks, and you'll have every quarterback, take what's there. If it is 3rd and 15, most teams are gonna zone you at that situation. And they're gonna have safeties, either cover 2 or cover 3. So, which sometimes the TV broadcast isn't going to show very well. And you have a fence at 3rd and 15, and you say, well, throw it into that. That's how you get 4 or 5 interceptions. If you start doing like that. So if they're going to do that, sometimes you do throw it underneath, take what's given, get it in a playmaker's hands, which the Eagles should do better with, but don't. And you say, hey, maybe you'll miss a tackle, maybe you get the first down that way. But yeah, the thought process, because I hear it all the time. I'm not picking on you. The thought process, it's 3rd and 15, you got to throw 16 yards. You're going to lose a lot of football games with that philosophy, especially against good defenses. There's some good defenses. Like
John, because it's I mean, common sense, it does make sense. I mean, the team is risk averse and they don't want to turn the football over, and they're struggling to run the ball on 1st and 2nd down. And many times they're taking negative runs, which as you've talked about all year, are a massive problem. So you get into these 3rd and long situations. It looks ugly. They try and protect the football, and then you're punting the football. That to me makes, again, common sense. Who's the leader of wanting to be risk averse? Is it a collective decision between Nick and Jalen? Is Nick telling the offense this is what he wants? Is it offensive coordinator? Is it more Jalen Hurts who wants to be risk averse? Do you have any answer to that, or what's your thought process on that part of it?
Nick Sirianni right now, because he's had such success winning this way. And he's going to ride it until it stops working. And the numbers are 43-2 or 42-2.
Yeah, right.
I forget what it is.
That's why he's got to show it to his team every week, so they keep buying him too.
Yeah, I mean, it's Nick Sirianni. But Jalen is. I think it suits Jalen very well because he's very ball security conscious. Like his. That goes back to high school and his father beating that into his head. And then you had Nick Saban beating that into his head. And then you had Nick. So he's had basically 2 years, Lincoln Riley, and 1 year Doug Peterson when he was a backup. So it really didn't matter.
Yeah, I think he played 4 games that year.
So it's been his entire football life that people have been beating that into his head. So I think he's uniquely willing to take that advice that maybe some other quarterbacks wouldn't be.
Right. John, to you, let me ask you this about the offense, because I think this is where a lot of people struggle, where you see the type of outputs they have, and you look at the talent on the roster, and it doesn't compute. I mean, you have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Goddard, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and you get 16 yards and a half. All right, I get it. You're going to not play every game. It's going to be great, but it does feel like the extremes. Why do they struggle so much, John, to get their key playmakers involved at times? Like sometimes, all right, you're not running the ball on 1st down good. Okay, you got 2nd and long and 3rd and long. Sometimes it feels to me, my opinion, that it's like scratching your nails on a chalkboard to try and get Devontae Smith involved, get A.J. Brown involved, get Dallas Goedert involved. Why do they struggle? And I look at some other teams, and I know it's not the style of offense the Eagles play, but, I mean, these dudes have lesser playmakers than the Eagles have, and they use them so much more effectively than the Eagles do. And to me, I look and I say, all right, you're living in 3rd and long. Get our playmakers involved. I don't care if it's a jet sweep to Devontae Smith. Do something to get your playmakers involved in the offense. Get the ball in their hands. Players over plays, right, John? Give me the ball to Devontae Smith. Give me the ball to A.J. Brown. Why do they struggle so hard to do that? At least it feels like that to me.
Well, I would say 2 things. One, that Saquon's one of those playmakers. So you're only talking, from what you're saying, you're only talking about the passing game. Second, Devontae Smith is not a jet sweep player. I don't think you would like that at all. They don't have that type of player. They don't have a manufactured touch player.
Well, that's to me. The only reason I said jet sweep is because you always say layup. Like, what's the Eagles' version of a layup then?
Bubble screen. quick hitch.
Yeah, great. City loves them.
Well, swing pass, but they don't do that well. All that kind of stuff. It'd be nice to have a manufactured touch player, but you don't have that type of player. And maybe Howie will address that at some point. And we'll see that down the road, but it's not really on the roster right now. Maybe Britton Covey would be the closest.
Yeah, well, if Jahan Dotson's out the door after the year, maybe that's what you look for in a wide receiver 3. Somebody that when you're not getting anything going, you can give a different look and keep it within the risk-averse approach that they so desperately want to do.
Yeah, they threw like a hitch to AJ at one point. And they got 6-7 yards. Not a hitch, but quick smoke screen.
Yeah,
they
right.
always throw hitches. So they do it occasionally, but they don't do it nearly enough when they're struggling. That part I agree with. But I mean, running the ball to Saquon Barkley again. If you can't block people, you can't play offense.
Yeah, you've been saying that for 5 years on this show since its inception.
It doesn't matter who the skill position players are. And you're seeing it in live and living color with Saquon, especially in that game. He's one of their biggest playmakers, arguably their biggest playmaker. It's 13-0 in a weather game. Look, it makes complete sense to come out of halftime, especially when you get a 3 and out, to say we're going to run this game out.
Yeah,
we're going to limit Buffalo's opportunities. From a strategy standpoint, that makes complete sense. And they couldn't run it at all. So at that point, you say, well, where does it tip and say it's just not working? We got to do something else. And that's legitimate to me for criticism. But again, you can't just say get the ball to your playmakers and you're trying to get the ball to maybe your biggest playmaker, but it's not in the passing game.
Yeah. I mean, he's a big playmaker. He's not the only playmaker, and if that's not working, shit, we got to figure out a new avenue here. But it is what it is. It's week 18, folks. So they're not changing much at this point. I just wanted to ask the question this morning. John, let's flip over to the more positive side of the football. Vic Fangio, while I said I didn't take as much, he did have some good comments. I mean, I love the comment. These guys are fun to coach, Vic Fangio said. And you can tell, Vic is an old school salty dog type of guy, I like to call him. You don't get those types of comments from him often. So I thought that was a pretty cool comment. And you can really see it on some of these defensive players, their mentality. I think most notable would be Jordan Davis and just the way he speaks and the way he, talks about the approach to the game this year and the leadership aspect on the defense. Defense has come a long way. Vic talked about that yesterday, how they've built on each week. What were some of your takeaways from Vic Fangio's comments yesterday on the Eagles defense?
Well, not much to complain about. So, I mean, the defense is playing really well. And when things are going well, it kind of gets a little bit boring from the perspective of, what is there? We talk about Vic's honesty and being gruff. What's there to complain about? So, you can argue the 2-point conversion. You talked a little bit about that. We got into some, light box talk. He constantly does that, which I try to explain. Like he's willing to give up. Now, I wish he would have spoke about that more because I gave him the opportunity. But he doesn't like to talk about himself. But he did say. So they play more lighter boxes than any team in the NFL. The goal is the +1 to get it in the passing game to limit explosive passing plays.
Right.
Now this is not exactly not well known. It's well known. That's what he does, and people have said. So I asked him flat out. I said, at what point? I asked him, you were talking about the run game and the light boxes and not wanting the quarterback to get pre-snap looks. and muddy things up post snap. And I asked him, when did that change for you? Because a lot of people have pointed to you as the guy who sort of changed that. And all he said is, it's been a while. I mean, we've been doing it for a while, and he has. It's, probably over a decade now. And he did admit it's been copied or imitated to some degree by some teams. That's all he said. It's been copied by imitated. He's being very self-deprecating there. The entire modern NFL game is built on defensive game is built on Vic Fangio. That's why I've always called him the best defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that Kirk Cousins clip that went viral a couple weeks ago was basically all about how Vic has changed defense in the NFL.
Exactly. I mean, literally, the entire modern NFL defensive mindset comes from Vic Fangio. And then the difference becomes, can you teach it? And not a lot of people can teach it like he can teach it. But he also admitted you got to have good players.
You got to, you know what else you got to have? You got to have teachable players, John. You got to have players who are willing to do it, willing to learn, willing to go through the process. And I think you really see that with this young. Maybe that's part of having a young team. Maybe there's some benefits to that on the defensive side.
And that's the answer to the question: why does Nakobe Dean play over Jihad Campbell? That's your answer,
right?
Why does the defense look better with Marcus Epps than Drew Makuba? That's your answer. Now, over a long period of time, if guys start to decline to where, the football IQ and the innate instincts are surpassed by the lack of athleticism, you have to make that adjustment. So it's not that easy, but when you're communicating in Vic's defense and you still reach the baseline level of being able to do it from an athletic standpoint, it is tough to deal with. And your talk about 3rd and 15, Vic Fangio is the reason why you don't throw it 16 yards on 3rd and 15. You do that against the Eagles, you're going to be in trouble, because that thing is tight. It's when they're playing well, and that's exactly what they want you to do, because here comes the pass rush, and they got cover 6, cover 3, cover 4. You don't know what's coming. It's all muddied until post snap. You don't know quarterbacks don't know what they're looking at. And then comes mistakes. It's the whole goal of the whole thing. But that's one, because I know Dan always pushes back when I say, it's not that big of a deal for them to give up, from their perspective, to give it not 280 like the Bears, but they'll give up 120, 130. They don't give a shit. They're inviting you. Please, by all means.
It's the old bend but don't break. That's the philosophy of the defense. And obviously they've been amazing this year. John, since week 10, they're giving up 14.5 points a game. This is why I've been telling fans this whole week. I know the offense is ugly, believe me. But remember a few weeks back, John, I said, I'm enlightened. All right. This team can beat anybody. It don't matter how bad that offense is. When your defense only giving up 14.5 points a game, you're going to be in every single football game. The offense just has to convert here and there, and then maybe your defense even gives you some points as well, because they've been getting some takeaways, which has been good as well. So, John, how do you feel about where the team stands right now? Let's just assume week 18. I don't want to call it a wash. You're still going to play the game, but assuming the starters head to the bench, or the key starters head to the bench, what do you make of the 16-game sample size you got from these starters playing? 11-5. They probably will finish up 12-5 if they win this weekend. But 11-5 through their first 16. Started 4-0, and went 7-5 since then. Had some bad losses and some great wins in there. A tough schedule. No back-to-back home games. The first place schedule, obviously, I mentioned. and a weird schedule, John, in that they never really were able to get in rhythm because they're playing on a Monday, a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday. I mean, almost every day of the week it feels like they played this year. Where are you, John, on the team? Just overall, a little bit of a macro thought process on what the team has accomplished this year, how they looked as compared to what your expectation was. And I'm talking you personally, what your expectation was. Where are you as we go into week 18 here, J-Mac?
Yeah, what better defensively than I thought they'd be. Worse offensively than I thought they'd be. And still a pretty good team at the end of the day. Not the most exciting team because they are risk averse, but I believe they're where they were when they started. And there's about 5 or 6 legit Super Bowl contenders, and they're one of them. But it went a little bit differently than I expected. I didn't expect the offensive line to be this bad. I didn't expect Saquon Barkley to have – I expect him to have a regression, but not to the degree that he had the regression. And then, again, the defense picks them up. Nobody knew Jalen Phillips would get here. And that has helped the defense turn a corner. And Vic talked about that a little bit, about how it impacts everybody else. Because I asked him the question, is that helping Nolan and Jalix? Because it seems to be. And he said, well, it's helping everybody when you get good players. And it took them long. You remember all the way back in training camp, I said, I cannot believe Howie Roseman's going to go into this season with this edge rushing group. And it took them a while to get there.
Yeah.
But I think that's when the defense took off. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I think it's going to be – they're certainly not as good as they were last year entering the playoffs. This year I think it's a more normal season. They bring their A game, they're probably going to win. But they are definitely susceptible to losing a lot more this year than they were last year.
Yeah, the margin is smaller, but it does also feel like, John, even if they don't bring their A game, I mean, did they bring their A game to Buffalo? I don't. The defense did.
Well, the defense
seemingly always has their A game.
Well, again, you're right. They didn't, because the offense played so poorly in the second half, and they won the game. But that's, I'm not saying they've won a bunch of games when they've not brought their A game, but you're also a tick away from Josh Allen throwing a strike and you lose.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm saying.
Or not a blocked field goal versus the Rams, or some of those case scenarios. Yep.
Yeah.
Or collapse versus the Cowboys. I get that too.
Yeah.
Any outcome is possible.
Yeah. So, this is one where, if it ends up being the Rams or the 49ers, it wouldn't shock me at all if they lose in the first round of the playoffs. And it wouldn't shock me if they won the Super Bowl.
It's exactly how I feel. Wouldn't shock me at all if they went the distance. Anything can happen. But with that defense, John, you're going to be in every single game. That's the beauty of the defense. Good stuff, everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here.
Well, two things I would just add with that defense and not turning the ball over.
Right, not turning the ball over, obviously. I mean, even going back to that Bills game, keep playing the game. Josh Allen's fumble, literally, keep playing the game. I know it happened in the first half, but arguably the biggest swing in the game, and maybe the reason the Eagles came out on top, because they weren't able to move the ball out that much outside of that short drive that they had after the Josh Allen fumble. Good stuff, everybody. I want to welcome everybody in today. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Hope everybody's doing well. We've reached week 18, which is the final week of the regular season. Everybody, for you, I don't know about you, all of you, but for me, the season went by nice and quick. We got some super chats today. We're going to talk to Brandon Lee Gouton in hour number 2. Normally on Wednesdays, we talk to Mike Gill. Mike is in the big boy chair today. He is a 97.5 The Fanatic, so he'll be joining us on Friday. Shout out to Mike Gill. Well done by him. Looking forward to talking to him on Friday's show. Let's get to some super chats. Here's Eduardo, member for 17 months. Eduardo, what's going on, my man? Appreciate your membership. He says, quick question, Johnny Mac. Early prediction, who do you got in the Super Bowl this year and why? Wow.
Boy, I don't like any of these teams, but right now I'm picking Jacksonville, because why not?
Wow. Okay.
And your Philadelphia Eagles, because
Jaguars, Eagles.
I at least they know how to win. It's pretty much what I'm leaning on.
From the Eagles' perspective?
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
From Jacksonville, the AFC is just boy. I mean, you got a bunch of unproven teams at the top.
Yeah,
of
and
the
then you
AFC.
got then you got one of the teams that looks the best. You got your star receiver who could have been comeback player of the year, being an idiot with a chef in his house.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing
Yeah.
here? That
Yeah.
John, those stories piss me off so much, man. I
Yeah.
mean, you got everything in front of you. At what point does maturity come into play? I mean, come on here. Let's go, Stephon. I mean, you're on a team where your quarterback could be the MVP. You're in the candidate for comeback player of the year. Your team has won 13 ball games. Your coach might be coach of the year, and you got every opportunity to go and make a playoff run. I mean, what the stupidity in that. But you're right. That's made me wonder though how that will impact the Patriots. Maybe not at all, but it is a distraction.
Oh, it'll impact. I mean, he's a knucklehead, but he's a hell of a player.
Yes, he is. You think he'll play though? The precedent that they've set is the legal process has to finish before they suspend. So,
yeah, I mean, you never know. They're a little bit harsher on domestic violence allegations now because of what happened in the past. There's no consistency with the NFL. That's the problem. And you want to be, I mean, these are allegations. You have to say that. There are, these are, Stephon Diggs has history of being a knucklehead, but it's mainly, not involving law enforcement. So you have to be fair. And these guys do make a lot of money, so they are susceptible for false allegations.
Yeah, that's very true.
So, but the NFL has people in house to look into these things and how legitimate they are. And it's tough, like I said, but of all the issues you could get in trouble with, like if you get a lot of these knuckleheads go 120 and something like that happens. Yeah, they're probably going to wait till the legal process it goes through that process, but
right
when it's domestic violence, it's a little bit different.
I will agree with your point though about some of these guys get targeted. So let's let the process play out. I hold firm and innocent until proven guilty, John. I know that's becoming lost in today's world, but that's what I will maintain.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the reality of the world. You make a lot of money, and there are people that will try to say some things that tend to not. It's not like the first time it would have happened. So I think the immediacy is what you said, and especially when you have the reputation of Stephon Diggs, he's an idiot, and maybe he is. But there is the other avenue, and that could be part of it as well. Especially when you think about the leverage you have doing it at this point of the schedule.
Yeah, right. So to just go back to Eduardo's question, you got Jags, Eagles. Is that like you don't feel too good about that, or that's just
no, I don't feel good about that at all, at all. I just like the way Jacksonville's playing. And again, you're talking at the top of the AFC. You're talking about all them unproven teams, every single one of them: Denver, New England, Jacksonville. They're all unproven. So one of them's got to win, you would think. Houston, Houston has the best defense.
Yeah.
So maybe you take it from that point, but they're going to have to go a more difficult route. But they're all unproven. and for all those New England ones, I'm talking about this version because I've heard that. Well, they're always there. Come on. You really don't see the difference? It's not Bill Belichick. It's not Tom Brady. It's a completely
Doesn't it
new
kind of
group.
look like they're building the modern version of that, though, or the new version of that? They got a defensive head coach. They got McDaniels back in the room. He doesn't look like he's going to go anywhere. I don't think anybody wants him to be a head coach, at least not anytime soon. Maybe they would. Who knows? You got a young quarterback who's developing nicely, can play from the pocket, can
Well,
scramble a little
with
bit.
all due respect, I'm going the under on Drake May compared to Tom Brady.
Wow, I mean, obviously, John. I'm just saying they're
Yeah,
building.
well,
a
you're
semblance
saying
of
they're
that.
building a similar. I'm not going to go that route.
All right, that's fair. You don't want to take my bait. That's all right. All right, let's go to the next super chat here. Zeal, thanks for the $10 super chat, brother. He says, during the Andy Reid era through Doug, this was one of the best screen teams in the NFL. What happened under Sirianni? I would think even a limited quarterback can execute a screen. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Yeah, not necessarily, I would say, to that. Screen game's about landmarks and feel and chemistry. And, I remember when Doug was here, every one of the most boring practices of the summer was the landmark practice, I would call it, where they would just practice, getting to your landmarks in the screen game and swing passes and things like that. Since Jalen has taken over, they've gone in a different direction because he does other things better than that. And they're not a good screen team, so they don't do it a lot. But when they do it, it's more tight end screen, I would say. And then also the running back's part of it. He's not a good screen running back.
No, he's not at all. For as good as he is, he does struggle in that stuff.
If they had different players who were better at it, they do it more. It's what it comes down to. It's what it comes down to with every offense. But there is, certainly with Andy, you're always going to have it as part of it. With Doug, you're always going to have it as part of it. And, if they were doing it here, it might be a little bit better, but you'd probably be complaining because it wouldn't look good. Why are they doing it so much? So it's like a give and take.
Yeah, good stuff. Zeal, appreciate the super chat. Here's Abe. Good question, Abe. How come up-tempo Jalen works better?
Yeah, yeah, it does work better. And I think everybody knows it, and they don't do it as much as they should do it. They do point out that you got to get the first down. That's part of the reason why I talked about they get the first down. They're very efficient, but you got to get the first down to go tempo. And they obviously have been terrible at the 3 and outs. Can't go tempo. I mean, you can Chip Kelly. You can just, and then you're going to screw yourself to non-existent if you're going to really affect the defense. You got to get the first down. But they are, and they're also better with spreading the field, empty sets. But even if it's not empty, 4 receivers, 3 receivers, 11 personnel, they're better when they spread the field. And why they don't do it more? Good question. Because he's clearly better in those situations. Clearly better.
I wonder, John, if it has anything to do with the comments that we talked about yesterday, whereas, the play clock. A lot of people have been talking about the play clock this year. Why do the calls come in so late? Is that Kevin Petula? You've shed more light on that than most. And whether people want to believe you or not, I don't care. But I wonder if that has anything to do with that, why they don't keep them in it more.
If you're in tempo, it's not even it's not relevant.
Well, that's what I mean. They want to talk to him. They don't want him to have full. Yeah.
No, I don't think that's it. I think they think if you do it too much, it becomes a negative. I would argue that let's see it become a negative before assuming it will become a negative. That would be my argument in back. But no, I don't think it has to do with that. In fact, I think that helps some of the issues with the play clock. But that's I always go back and forth. I guess this will be my pet peeve of the day. I go back and forth. What's the worst statistic? That might be overlapping some of the other statistics as the worst statistic in the history of football when they snap the football, because it varies from team to team by who the quarterback is. Are they comfortable? Like we bring up Phillip Rivers, those guys who want to take it down as long as possible to see what they're looking at. You have tempo teams who are going to be better because they're going tempo. You have good teams. Good teams tend to be at the bottom of those rankings because why? They're leading and they're trying to run out football games and they're trying to drain the clock. It is such a bad statistic. There's 10 other things. It is such a terrible, terrible statistic to the point that the Eagles, now it's become a thing. There's 2 or 3 people who latch onto it. The Eagles are 32nd in the NFL. And we Jeff was on the show yesterday, and I asked him, what were they last year? Because I knew it was bad, because that's how they play. They were 29th. Granted, not as bad, but 29th ain't good if that's the goal, but it's not the goal. Last year, they were running out a bunch of games, effectively trying to drain the clock. That's why they were at the bottom of the league. Nobody gave a shit last year. Nobody mentioned it that I know of, that I recall. They've been this way for years. Now it's gotten a little bit worse this year. But they've always been at the bottom of the league. And that has more to do with being successful than anything else.
Yeah, I like Zeal's comment in the chat. Zeal says, where is it? Let me find it. Let me find Zeal's comment. I liked it. You got to get first downs before you could go up tempo. Zeal, that's true, brother. No opportunity to go up
real
tempo.
Zeal. Hey, real Zeal, it is true. I just said that.
Yeah, I know.
You got to get the first down.
Yeah, I know. All right, good stuff. Appreciate that, Super. Here we go. I like this, Super. Here's Devin Shanahan, $5. How about VJ Edgecombe? 14-22 on clutch shots within 2 minutes to go this year. Hits another big one last night. The backcourt is looking up.
I'm out on the Sixers. I'm sorry. I'm out.
Oh, it was a good one last night, man. No defense.
I didn't even know they played.
VJ Edgecombe hit a big dagger at the end of overtime, John. He had a couple big threes, and he had 15 points, I think, in the fourth quarter.
The Chicago game, I checked out. That was it for me. Until this organization admits they made that, they're going to beat Chicago on the road, which is, whatever. It's a decent win. And then 6 minutes, and I don't think it's Nick Nurse. I think he's being told by the organization.
Agreed.
That Joel Embiid's got to be on the floor, and they're running the offense through Joel Embiid.
He did 34 last night, but yeah, he's a stopper.
He's a traffic cone on defense at this stage. He can't even move. And to me, the only reason I'm watching the Sixers is to see Edgecombe's development and Maxi's development. I don't want to see any more Joel Embiid. I don't want to see it. I don't want it near me. And if you have to play him, because obviously you're not going to give him away, and you have to convince somebody to take him, it damn sure better be not in the guts of the game, not when you're trying to win a game. I am not watching that team if they are running their offense through Joel Embiid late in games.
Yeah, but what do you reckon they do? I mean, I get it. I'm with you because I'm done with the experiment and the process too. But what do you reckon they do? I can't change. So this is where they are.
I recommend, play him when he decides to show up and play him. But when it's the guts of the game, he's got to take the Shaq Kobe approach. Dude, you ain't it. Now, in Shaq's instance, he couldn't make a damn free throw, so they had to go in a different direction, and he had to suck up the ego and realize Kobe's the closer. You ain't the closer. You've never been the closer. You never will be the closer, even when you're good, because you were a turnover machine. Now he can make free throws, but he's a turnover machine late in games. You can't run the offense through him. If he's got to be here, all right, I can stomach that. But when you're in a close game and there's 5 minutes or left to go, you can't run the offense through him.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've run it less through him this year than other years. I mean, it's obviously
in that Chicago game, I wasted my entire. First of all, I'm a cord cutter, so I'm a complete Amazon, Netflix. So I don't even have the ability to watch the Sixers normally.
Are you a YouTube TV guy, or are you just a straight cut cord?
Straight cut cord guy, because I don't watch TV. I have NFL Game Pass. I have all the NFL channels. That's it. That's all I need. I don't watch regular television. So I mainly cut them out of my life to begin with. And then I'm flipping on Amazon.
Like you're cutting out like a toxic relationship.
Oh, it is.
I cut them out.
And then I flip on Amazon for that Chicago, and there it is. And I'm like, all right, I'll buy it. Let me tune in. And they're playing good basketball for the majority of the game. Obviously, they have defensive deficiencies. Pretty good game. And then 6 minutes left. Here he comes, trotting back on the court. And I'm like, don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. And it was a shit show from that point forward. It was a shit show from that point forward.
Yeah, I mean, I watched most of the games this year. I haven't caught them all, so they play a lot and working a lot. But it's definitely less Embiid this year than it has been.
And barely. He shows up, in the morning and says, "I'm playing."
Yeah, but I'm saying this is the first year. This is the most I've seen where they've built an offense in other areas. And it's obviously going to start running through Maxey a lot more. It has this year. Maxey's incredible, dude. I freaking love Tyrese.
Well, and then there were people that he missed because he missed a bunch of shots at the end of that game, and they would say, but only after they had about a 6-point lead, whatever. It wasn't big, 4-6-point lead. Only after they fell behind and he was pressing did they have to go to him, and he had to pull it out of his ass to try to win the game, and he wasn't able to do it. Well, if you don't do it in the first place and force him into that situation, maybe you have a better result. It's a bad organization. And one thing I can tell you from covering the Eagles, you can tell good organizations versus bad organizations. And this is the same city. It's a bad freaking organization. I know Nick Nurse knows basketball. I know it's not coming from him. I absolutely 100% know it. He's being forced to do this. And until they get rid of this guy, or until they come to that grips that he's killing them, not only from on the floor, but off the floor, and the fact that, again, they have to play a completely different way when he's not there. So when he wakes up each morning and says, I'm going to come to practice or I'm going to play, they have to shift and can play a completely different way.
It's almost like your starting quarterback, like telling you, all right, I'm going to be here today. I'm not going to be here tomorrow. It's like weird.
Yeah. I mean, that is a loser organization that has completely let this guy take over their team. And I don't care who you are, the best player in any sport.
Come on, the owner's terrible. The owner doesn't give a shit about the team.
Well, I don't know if that's the case, but they've let this guy completely take over the team. And it is toxic. That's a good word for it. He does what he wants. He's always done what he wants. and it doesn't work. There's my
yeah, I
tangent
think
of
it's
today.
I think it's good, but I tell you what, I do like what I'm seeing with that backcourt. You know, and I don't like, John, when people get mad at Maxey for shooting the ball late in games. Like, this is the years where you need Maxey to learn those moments. Shoot or shoot, everybody. All right. You're gonna miss some shots. You're gonna even take some bad shots, but you gotta let Maxey keep
I'd
shooting.
rather see Maxey shoot than
Yeah,
Joel
I know, but
Embiid.
people, I mean, I've seen people talk about that. Sometimes he takes bad shots late in games, but you know, that's the guy you need to be your closer. And if it's not this year, if they get better next year, a couple years down the line, when they do maybe move on from Embiid, you know, you want to have him have experience in those big time moments, and I think he's getting it. I love Edgecombe too. Devin, good super chat, good little tangent on the Sixers. Appreciate you everybody for being here. In about 11 minutes time, we are going to talk to Brandon Lee Gouton, BLG from Bleeding Green Nation. I'm looking forward to talking to BLG. He always has good commentary on, you know, the offense, and boy, they give us some fodder every week, John.
Oh,
This
by the way,
past week.
I have an apology to make because it popped up.
Here we
Puka
go.
Nacua did not catch that football.
Wow. Are you kidding me, J-Mac?
No, he did not. And I said he did because now I got the clip from Warren Sharp's Twitter account. Later, I saw a different clip that showed it from the side, and he clearly bobbled the football when he after he secured it with a great one-handed catch, and he got his feet down as he was starting to fall to the ground. He lost control. I did not see that angle. I saw the angle from the back where I thought they were talking about the bobble at the end. They were not. He had bobbled
there was
it.
two separate. Yep.
Yeah. So my apologies to the fit. They got that one right.
There you go.
But
For everybody that says John never owns it. There you go, John. Well done. Well done.
Yeah, well, I admit it all the time. Those people.
I know you do, but other people, you know, they need to be have their hand held, John.
Yeah. But, you know, in other aspects, DeMonte in the Buffalo game, TJ Hawkinson in the Vikings game versus the Eagles, those were catches. However, they've been very consistent in calling that this year, which I think is bad for the league. So they haven't, for what they're told to do, they've been very consistent, which again, I point to your complaints are really with legislation, not the officials for the most part. And it's bad for the league because you're taking away some great plays like Devontae and Hawkinson. And I thought Puka, but again, I saw a different angle. And Warren Sharp, buddy, if you're listening to me, why didn't you show that angle? Come on. I get, you know, sometimes I think people are doing this purposefully. You show one angle and you don't show the other angle, which shows he clearly didn't catch the ball.
Well, newsflash. People are doing it. People are doing it intentionally. Social media, John, you get paid on clicks nowadays, man. That's what nature of the beast. So no doubt about it. Good stuff, everybody. Coming up, BLG. We're going to talk to him about where they are. John, it looks like the playoff matchups. Let me shut these dogs up one time. John, playoff matchup. It looks like it's going to be the Rams, the Niners, or the Packers if they get the 2 seed. Packers will only be if they get the 2 seed. If they remain at the 3 seed, Rams and Niners would be coming to Philadelphia. I got to be honest, Eagles can beat both of them, but I don't think it's a great draw given the 7 teams in the playoffs who you're going to get in the wild card round for Philly if that's one of the 2 teams you get.
Yeah, I don't mind San Francisco at all. I don't mind Green Bay, obviously, at all. I think those are both pretty easy wins for the Eagles. The Rams, now they got to start playing better, but that's a difficult game. I don't care. You know, that's going to be a difficult game. Excuse me. Cough is still here. Especially with Devontae Adams being back, and he's going to be back. Um, that's the one I would want to avoid. Not that they can't beat them; they can beat them. And you shouldn't be scared of playing anybody. The Eagles, have had their number in the past, but that is the one team that I think can beat them in the first round. I don't think San Francisco can beat them. I don't think.
Yeah, I'm wondering why you're so down on that team. I mean, I know they have big injuries, but they have played really. I mean, the defense isn't very good.
It's terrible.
I know, but I said it yesterday. We don't take advantage of bad defenses, John.
There's a difference between, and again, we'll see what the weather is. The weather could be bad again. But there's a deep, and I'm not saying they're going to score 40 points because there's no evidence that they're able to do that, but they're going to score enough against that team. It's just they can't stop people. And they lost their two best players.
We struggle to move the ball, man. I mean, their offense is humming, brother. Kyle Shanahan, I think, is having one of his best years in terms of play calling and stuff. John, I say this to you because at many points I agree with you and understand where you come from when you talk about Kevin Petula, because he's obviously been the hotbed name in Philadelphia. When I watch Kyle Shanahan, though, that's the one area where I'm like, man, this play calling make a difference, because that dude knows how to scheme and that dude knows how to call some plays.
Play design, I would argue.
Play design, yeah.
I've been talking about Kyle for years.
I know you have, but that's why I'm like, boy, the difference between that guy and the guy in Philly. I mean, one's the real thing, one is a knockoff.
Well, that's like saying the difference between Vic Fangio and insert name, because he's the Vic Fangio of offense, in my opinion. Nobody's copied more. Nobody's, look at the guys who've left. Sean McVay comes from Kyle Shanahan. So everybody on McVay's tree is really Shanahan's tree. And really, and he, Kyle's own tree specifically, and really, if you go back to his dad, and Gary Kubiak, because that's where it really started. It's exactly like Vic on the defensive side, just 15 imitators, trying to do what he does. Same thing. Can you teach it? And there's no coincidence that Sam Darnold turned into Sam Darnold after a year in San Francisco. There's no coincidence that Mac Jones turned into what Mac Jones looked like this year when he had to play, because he's in San Francisco. He's great. Not a great head coach, though.
He's the real quarterback whisperer, not this dude, Kevin O'Connell. How did Kevin O'Connell come in and take that name? Come on, guy. Come on.
Because you didn't see Darnold in San Francisco. You saw him in Minnesota. But Kevin got the finished product. And the same thing.
I can't say I'm a Kevin O'Connell guy. I don't know what it is. There's just something about him I don't like.
Well, I love him because he speaks honestly, which I like. I like people who give, who don't.
Yeah, who are honest. That makes sense.
Who doesn't do what Nick Sirianni does. And I like Nick personally, but I mean, he doesn't give you anything. I don't like that. I like Kevin gives you quite a bit, so I like him.
How do you analyze Purdy, John?
I mean, he's got some limitations. He's susceptible to turning the football over, but obviously, Kyle has got him in a good system for him, and when he's hot, he's very good. But he's also susceptible of having those Darnold-like games. But because everybody likes to pick on Sam. And part of that is, by the way, because they're willing to take chances. And quarterbacks are like pitchers in baseball. I always make the matter. You don't have your best stuff every day, and sometimes when you don't have your best stuff, it can get ugly. The the key point is to limit that ugliness. And recently he's been playing really well, but it's always in the back of your mind that he's going to have one of those games. And they have so many injuries. And to your point about Kyle is so obsessed. And I've talked to people that have worked with Kyle. He's so obsessed. Think about, Mike McDaniel and some of the people that have spun off, Matt LaFleur, that have spun off from Kyle Shanahan. Those are the two most notable, that direct spinoffs. So I'm taking out the McVays and the O'Connells, who also work with him in our history. But he would never let them call plays. And there are some of the best play callers, put that in quotation, in the NFL, in most people's minds. He would never let them call plays because he's obsessed with play design. He's obsessed with his own offense, very similar to Nick here, and as most people are. And he was like, he told those guys, well, the minute you could do it better than me, I'll let you do it. And of course, he's the one judging, so maybe they can do it better, but I doubt it, but we'll never know. And you've seen, whether it goes back to the Super Bowl when he was the offensive coordinator with the Falcons or his time with the 49ers, he's had a ton of success, but he's made a lot of game management mistakes because he's so fucking bogged down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, John, why don't coaches like that hire, these coaches, they got so many damn people on their staff nowadays. You would think that these offensive guys, or even, if you're a defensive guy, you would hire somebody on the sideline. You're my game management person, and help me with that. They don't do that. They don't think to do that.
Well, most teams have a game management specialist. But, you have to listen to them too. These guys get big egos.
Yeah. I know they do. You're so right about that, J-Mac. All right, good stuff. Good conversation. Niners could be the Eagles' first-round playoff matchup. Could be the Rams. Could be the Packers. Those are one of the three, depending on what seed the Eagles land on. Let's go to BLG. Brandon Lee Gouton joining us right here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Brandon Gouton. Read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. BLG, Happy New Year to you, brother. Good Wednesday to you. How you doing this morning?
Happy New Year, guys. Nice to see you.
Yeah, Happy New Year, BLG. By the way, the cutoff, I want your cutoff for Happy New Year's in your personal life. How long will you go Happy New Year to people you see?
Yeah, probably just the first day, honestly.
All right, nice. I like it.
You went up.
I was willing to get, yeah.
I said the 6th, and now
I was willing. I'm willing to give people a buffer, but people, you'll see somebody in late January say, Happy New Year. No, can't. That's not good. So I like you. Day one?
That's right. Maybe early on the 2nd. That's about it. Yeah.
All right. I applaud that. I will not applaud, however, the Eagles offense, BLG. Now we're talking, we're in week 18 now. We can talk about changes. We can talk about that. It's not happening.
Yeah.
At this stage, this is the offense. How do you best rescue this situation, I guess?
Yeah, I think if you're trying to be super optimistic, you could say that, they can flip the switch, but I just really, I think that's kind of just hoping against hope, really, at this point. And there's really no reason to believe that that's definitely gonna save the offense at this point. Is it possible, they have another gear, then completing more than one pass or no passes in the second half? Yeah, sure.
I'm going to take the over for that. Most games, I'll take the over.
I think something that is within their control that they could reasonably fix is a little bit more aggression. I do think that's a part of a problem with the team we've seen all year. You look back at the Broncos game, you look back at the second Cowboys game, the Buccaneers game. It's not just that, but I do think there is an element of we're just going to park the bus. We're going to hunker down and kind of bleed the clock out, even though that's way too early to do. So I do think just a little bit more aggression, and the mindset of that could at least Yeah, again, not fix everything, but at least kind of get you pointed in a direction that I feel better about.
BLG, can they win 4 playoff games in a row this way? I think they can because of the defense. I mean, when you're giving up 14.5 points a game, which they have since week 10, you're going to be in every football game, no matter how bad your offense is. The question there would be the margin for errors that is so small. When you get into those playoff moments, will you get got? I think they can win because of the defense. Some will call me crazy, says, and they're going to get bounced with this offense. How do you kind of see their chances going into the playoffs with some of these, tougher teams? You could have the Niners or the Rams in the first round, and those are two offenses that could score some points.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with the phrase, margin for error. That's the issue. I do think they can win like this, but it's such a much more narrow margin than I feel like it has to be. And there's going to be maybe something weird in a game, or there could be, where it's just not even in your control. It could be like, let's just say like Jalen Hurts' fumble in that first Super Bowl, like something just like kind of weird and fluky. That
How about
happens.
Josh Allen throwing a strike? The game's over. You lose.
That's what I mean. Exactly. Yeah. Like it's just, great point. Yeah. Wide open. He makes that throw probably, I don't know, 90 out of 100 times, maybe more. And I do think, like, at least with the defense, like, they deserve that break with how well they played. The offense did not deserve that break. And there's something to be said, I think, for like the cumulative pressure the Eagles were putting on him, maybe taking a toll.
I think there's a lot.
So I think it's more than just pure luck. But to your point, I mean, like, that's a throw that you can't just count. And same thing with the extra point. Like, you can't just count on that. Jalen Carter's obviously good at that to some level, but he's not going to block every single one. So it's just, I feel like they're just playing with fire.
Yeah. I agree. The margin of error is extremely small. Do you think that's what was going on in Buffalo? You mentioned the lack of aggression. Do you think they came out in the second half and they're trying to essentially, run out the clock? Do you think that's part of the problem? They're just so risk averse. And some of it was the rain and some of it was the weather and how well the defense is playing. But do you think that was the plan? Just let's get to the finish line.
It's hard not to when you look at just like how they approached it and like run, pass on 4 out of the 5 drives there. I know the one they were backed up, but still, it just really didn't match to me the approach, like what we were seeing in the first half. I mean, Jalen Hurts, I thought, made some really, really good throws in that first half against this defense. And I know the Bills' run defense has been vulnerable this year, but I mean, at some point, you can just tell the Eagles' run game doesn't have it right now. So maybe it's not the plan to just lean into that and figure it's going to work eventually, as much as it is to trust maybe Jalen Hurts a little bit more, empower him a little bit more, and lean in on that, because that, again, they were having some level of success with that in the first half.
BLG, what's your concern level on this offensive line, man? I mean, we've gotten so used to great offensive line play in this city, and you watch the rewatch of that game, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Now, I know people love to talk about Patullo or Jalen or whatever the problem is, but as John always says on this program, you can't play offense if you can't block people. What's your concern level on that offensive line going into the postseason?
Yeah, I definitely think, it's the worst we've seen in some time, which is, very, it's just so good usually that I think people think this is like, one of the worst. I don't think people think it's the worst, but I think people think, it's probably even worse than it is, just because of the standard that we're used to seeing from this offensive line. But there's no doubt. I mean, and that's a big part of why they can't get the run game going. But I don't think it's the only reason. And I don't think, the coaching staff is always doing a great job of helping these guys like succeed. And when you're like running into heavy boxes all the time, like, okay, even if the blocks are great, I really don't know if that's the best way to attack it. So I think, it's an element of the offensive struggling, but I also think it's also part of just like not being optimized, not helping your players, not, as Andy Reid would say, putting your players in the best position to succeed.
All right, week 18, BLG, are you playing everybody to get the number 2 seed and crossing your fingers? Are you sitting the key players, or are you scoreboard watching and starting? And hey, if Detroit doesn't show up, removing them, which kind of didn't work in 2023 when AJ Brown. What avenue? Those are the 3 avenues. Which one are you taking?
Yeah, I frame this in my mind as like, what would I regret the most? And I think what the Eagles would regret the most, at least again, if I'm making the decision, is if you go out and let's say the Lions win, and then you rested your starters and you can't beat the Commanders. I think it's entirely possible the Eagles still could beat their Commanders with
Yeah, I
some of
think
their
they will,
backups,
by the way.
and that's
With Tanner
fair.
McKee and Tank Bigsby, I think they beat Josh
Hey,
Johnson.
I think that's like fair and possible. They are 7-point favorites, so currently, so that kind of line even tells you, they're expected to win there. But I'm just like I would have a hard time living with the fact that you could have pushed harder for the 2 seed and you didn't get it in part because of your own like hubris. So that's I go into it thinking, I'm not going to play Lane Johnson. Obviously, there's some exceptions, but I would lean towards being aggressive and trying to win this game.
I agree with you, BLJ. I think that 2 seed's a much better road to Santa Clara. Someone hit me with, Zander, are you scared? No, I just think it's a better path to Santa Clara. It's as simple as simple as that for me. BLJ, how much of a problem do you think Kevin Patullo is? Or maybe not. Maybe you don't think he's the problem.
Yeah, to me, it always just comes from Nick. Like it's a bigger problem from the standpoint of number one, too. It's Nick's guy. Like that is obviously a Nick Sirianni pick for offensive coordinator, and also and Nick admitted this after the game on Sunday. Like he has to do a better job of helping Kevin Patullo, and I think part of that speaks to the fact that ideally, I don't think you would have to do that as much. But it's entirely reasonable that the head coach, I think, has to come in at certain points. And especially if we're talking about CEO, head coach, big picture stuff there. Like if there's an issue, he has to step in somewhere and kind of help provide answers. And it looks like maybe he was doing some of that for a little bit there, as we saw that reporting that Nick was getting more involved with the offense. Which great if that's the case. But then you have a game like this where it takes a major step back, and it's hard to say he is providing.
Yeah,
I absolutely, no, I'm not going to defend him,
out.
Patullo, but I just think Nick is part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Nick's offense, so I think I got to go Nick first. But I get everybody wants to scapegoat, the easy scapegoat if things go poorly and you got a first round loss is obviously Kevin Patullo. And this is the three-headed monster. I'm sure you saw the clip going around with the meeting room with Jalen Hurts and Scott Loeffler, which is about 10 seconds. I can't even tell, by the way. Maybe you can. I'll ask you, BLG. Do you know what Jalen said? Because I can't understand what he said.
This is from Hard Knocks, you're saying?
Yeah.
No, I did not see it.
Oh, you haven't seen it? Oh, well, you'll see it eventually. And if you do, text me because I can't even understand what he's saying. People are making a big deal out of it, at least some people. But, this is a three-headed monster, and I always go players first, and I think most coaches do that. Vic Fangio is talking about the defense, talking about, he likes coaching these guys. He likes good players. The more good players he has, the smarter he looks. He likes good players. How much of this offense's problems are the quarterback? And the belief that this is the way they have to play because of the quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's like a big picture question that's absolutely valid. In this game, applied less to me from a standpoint. Again, I thought Jalen did some really good things there in the first half. Now, obviously, when you go 0 for 7 like that in the second half, the quarterback's a part of that. Same time, a lot of those pass attempts, they're in third and long because they're running the ball unsuccessfully.
They're always in third and long.
Yeah.
Always.
And I don't think that was Jalen's fault that they're in third and long when they're trying to run and they can't get anything going. Now they're behind the sticks. And by the way, I thought Jalen made, he has the completion to Devontae Smith that gets overturned. I thought that was a bad overturn just based on, I don't think it was conclusive. I think you had to stick with the ruling on the field either way there. And then, which wasn't even the best throw because Devontae had to adjust on it, but it's in the rain, whatever. And then the other one later in the game just went right through Devontae's hands. Tough catch to make, but you like to see him make that one. So in this specific game, I have, I'm putting less on Jalen. I think again, bigger picture, you could say that, but I think part of that is almost just like when we talk about Jalen being limited. I think in part, he's also limited by the head coach, or the head coach maybe is perceiving him to be a little bit more limited than he is. And I would like to see him empower him and entrust him a little bit more. And I think that can make Jalen play a little bit better at times.
That was my next question for you. Do you think they lack trust in Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and I think there are times, again, where you have to look at it and you look at what Jalen is, and he's not going to be a guy that, drops back like 40 times or whatever, 30 plus times each week. It's like not going to be so much the formula. But we've seen him answer the bell in big moments when they kind of have trusted him more, like in the NFC Championship game, like in the Super Bowl last year. And I don't think it's that simple to get him going to that level by just trusting him. But I think with the way they go so extreme when it comes to this conservative idea of like, we just have to protect the ball. It's the only thing that matters. It's the only thing that matters. I think that can be a detriment to the point of where you're limiting the player and not empowering them enough.
Yeah. I agree with that. Why my biggest struggle with the Eagles offense of them all, and there's a lot of them, is their inability when they do get into these lulls, their inability to get the quarterback a layup.
Mm-hmm.
And by, it could be anything. It could be a bubble screen, which I hate. And everybody knows this. I hate bubble screens, but they all say it. Let them watch the basketball go through the hoop.
Mm-hmm.
The easy, just it might be a screen pass. They don't do screen passes.
Mm-hmm.
They're not a great screen team. The bubble screen, it could be a smoke screen. They did do it to AJ Brown once in the first half, I believe. Why can't they get a stinking layup for the quarterback when these lulls start?
Yeah, I don't know. It's insane. Well, it's insane for multiple reasons, because they've won both games this year, but they've had 2 games where they didn't complete a pass in the second half. Like, that's just such a failure. Like, come on, what are we talking about? It's 2025. The offense has like never been easier in the NFL. And everything is geared towards offense. How can you not have a completed pass? And yeah, quarterback's obviously touching the ball. He's a big part of that. But I mean, make it easier for him at some point. Help him out. It's like impossible to argue. I think that like, they're doing everything they possibly can to make it easier for him. There's just no good reason for that. And I also say here too, we're talking about layups. I would also just like to see, because I think part of it is, I don't know if this offense is really going to be, down to down successful the entire game. Like, I don't think you can expect that from them. That's not who they are. They're not good enough.
Yeah, it's week 18. We know who they are at this point.
So maybe let's get them more aggressive and take some shots down the field. I thought this was a good stat from our friend Bo Wolf, who mentioned that Saquon Barkley this year has like 3 targets the entire season, where he's been targeted 10 plus yards down the field. One of them was that great touchdown.
The wheel route.
And it's like, I don't know, maybe like if you especially, okay, you can't get Saquon going on the ground. Let's maybe try to throw him the ball.
How about again, I know people aren't going to like this, but how about throwing a wheel route to Will Shipley, who actually is a good receiver?
Sure.
Maybe a surprise the other team.
You motion them out on 3rd and long instead of doing the coward's draw.
Yeah. I mean, that guy can catch the football. I know people don't believe it, but I said the same thing about Kenny Gainwell. Look at Kenny Gainwell in Pittsburgh. He's catching a football all over the place.
That's right.
I mean, there is very, very frustrating parts to this Eagles offense that don't make a lot of sense. And I don't know who to blame it on other than it looks very similar. Again, the results are not the question with me. It's what it looks like. And it looks very similar with Shane, with Nick, with Brian Johnson, with Kellen Moore, and now with Kevin Patullo. So I got to blame Nick.
Yep. I agree. I think Nick is not. I think he doesn't. It's really frustrating because I don't think he's done a great job this year, and that's okay. Like, not every coach is going to have an amazing year, but it's just especially egregious when this defense is so good as it is, and you're in such a unique opportunity. Like, going back to back is a hard thing to do, and you have a special opportunity in front of you, and to waste a Super Bowl caliber defense with an offense that like just should not be this bad, just like cannot get it out of its own way. I think that would be a really disappointing development.
I agree with that. Here's the one thing that's given me maintaining my confidence in the Eagles. If you don't lose that game in Buffalo when you have 0 completions and 16 yards and a half, I don't think that they might not lose any game,
Might
but
be a positive sign. Yeah.
right. That's the team that would have made you pay. BLG, on that defensive side of the ball, you talk about how good that defense has been, and man, they have been. Who has stuck out the most or maybe surprised you the most this year? I mean, you look at the defensive line, they got guys all over the D line. You look at the second level, linebackers playing great this year, even the rookie, secondary. I mean, you drafted 2 guys last year who might be both all pros. Who has been most impressive to you individually on defense?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because I'm looking at the names here and I'm like, I don't even know the answer to that at the top of my head, just from a standpoint of it's everyone. Like everyone
Right.
is
It could be
playing
so
so
many.
well,
Yep.
which speaks in part, I think, to good coaching. Like you're getting you're getting the most out of the players that you have. And it's really funny when you have these conversations, not to make it about the offense, but like the defense, like it's just the opposite case of everything for the offense. But you have someone like Marcus Epps who, was previously a good starter for the Eagles in years past. And then he leaves, goes to the Raiders, signed to the Patriots earlier this year, gets cut, comes back to the Eagles, and then he's like blowing up plays in the run game and making huge leading tackler in this game. Like that was your fourth safety at one point this year. And now he comes in, he's playing great. Cooper DeJean, awesome as ever. I think it didn't even count, but that fumble recovery he had was so awesome to see him just shove a huge offensive lineman out of the way and then get the ball, which again didn't count, but still, like they're just so physical, they're so nasty. It was actually that sequence that really impressed. Like that was such just like a man. This unit is so like badass when it comes to okay. Marcus Epps flies in, almost forces the fumble there on James Cook, and then second down. What happened on second? It was Jalen Carter, the sack. Like, and Jalen Carter, who like at his best is just it's unstoppable. And I swear I've never seen like a defensive lineman like hit the quarterback, or at least a defensive tackle hit the quarterback more violently, more like pure force. Than
Well, I
Jalen
used to
Carter
say
does.
it, in NFL films from the 70s, but not now, where you're not allowed to put your body weight on quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But he doesn't
Jalen
even need
Carter.
to do that part. Like it's not even
No,
just the drive to the ground, just like the
yeah.
initial contact he hits him with. It's so strong.
I'll tell you who the most surprising guy to me is. You brought up a good one with Marcus Epps. Such a smart player. I think that fits with Vic, but Jalix Hunt, man.
Yeah.
Man.
My God. I mean, I think he even saw it. I tried to get Vic to bite on this yesterday because I see a different player since Jalen Phillips showed up. And I think part of it is that thought of things fall into place. Teams are paying attention to obviously Jalen Carter when he's out there, but then Jalen Phillips, he's the guy. And all of a sudden you're getting a lot of one-on-ones and he's just beating people. He's got 6.5 sacks. He's got 57 pressures. These are outrageous numbers for a guy who was, coming out of Houston Christian as a complete developmental process player.
Mm-hmm.
And he's up there with Will Anderson and pressures and Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, what a story. Is anybody going to wake up one day and say, well, but this guy's freaking, I mean, I think, and I've said it for a couple weeks now, better than Nolan Smith. I think. Now, a little bit different. Nolan's really good setting the edge. Nolan is really good setting the edge. But as a pass rusher, I think Jalix Hunt is better.
I mean, he has been this year for sure. He's been healthier too than Nolan, but that's part of it. And I think Jalix, it's like he's such a likable guy, right? Like the personality. And I think that kind of speaks to part of why the Eagles drafted him because they saw someone who, like, I think Jalix wants to be great, and you can see that with how he's improved and just the effort he plays with on the field. Like he's not always like beating tackles clean, but he plays with a relentless motor.
That effort, yeah. That's the one thing you look at all great pass rushers. They all have effort. They never stop. Yep. He's one. He does that. That's a good point by you, BLG. He's got tremendous effort.
Bill G, what do you make of the playoff picture right now? Most of the NFC playoff teams are locked in. Obviously, you have that NFC South, the battle of mediocrity over there. What do you make of the 7 teams in and just kind of the whole playoff picture and what might be the road the Eagles have to take to get to Santa Clara?
Yeah, I mean it's funny because they're the number 6 seed right now. I still think the Rams are like the team to beat. I
So
know
do I. So do
they,
I.
you lost 2 games in a row. I don't care. Like they lost by 1 point in Seattle. They covered the spread in that game, by the way. And that there was some fluky stuff going on in terms of that 2 point conversion. Like okay, and it's a division. If that's one of your worst losses, it's like okay, it's fine. And also okay, they lose to the Falcons. Obviously, not good to go down 21-0 like they did, but like I just don't think. To me, if you want to talk trap game, that could be a trap game for them because it's a team and nothing to play for. I think it's okay, and they ultimately lost by 3 points. You still look at their resume this year. Like, what's the biggest loss they've had? Was it to the Eagles, I believe, on that blocked field goal, which they almost very came close to winning the game there, and that was by what 6 points there, 7 points. The other loss is 3 points.
7 points, but that's because they
3 points.
returned. That's because they returned
Right.
it. Yeah.
So like it's just like no, they're in the game until the final play every single week at worst. If they're not beating teams more comfortably, we'll see if they get Devontae Adams back. So I still think the Rams, even though they're the number 6 seed, which I don't even think that's like that detrimental for them from the standpoint of like they don't have this massive home field advantage. Like I think it's okay if they play on the road. So they're still the team to beat. I think the 49ers are getting hot, and I'm monitoring that. And if they get the 1 seed here, which they might, if they beat Seattle, then I certainly think that could be a problem for teams to deal with. And I also think the 49ers too, I'm kind of coming around on this idea that I think they're really benefiting from like not being the it team all year, like they have been at their best in years past, where they kind of there was so much pressure on them. And I think it felt like every year because like they're getting so close, they're so good in the regular season. Or this year, it's like all the injuries and the success of the Rams and the Seahawks kind of like put them on the back burner. And I think they've kind of been like benefiting from lower expectations this year.
Well, I'll say this to your point about the Rams, and remember, Devontae Adams will be back for the playoffs, and I think they're a completely different team when he's out there because they've been playing a ton of 13 personnel, which I think it's worked for them, but it kind of limits you offensively if you do it too much. And when he's back, they'll become a more well-rounded offense. To the point about San Francisco, I've been talking about. I don't believe in San Francisco at all. That defense, BLG, is atrocious. I saw Bryce Huff in that game chasing people in key situations, which he's doing better than he was here. But there's no Nick Bosa, there's no Fred Warner. If those guys were there, I would say San Francisco is going to be a problem. But they're not, and they're not going to be able to come back. So,
well, we'll see in Warner. There's talk that Warner could come back, but yeah.
Well, if he does, I'll revisit that. You have to see. Obviously, there'd be some rust, but he's such a great player. I'm sure he'd be back at a high level. So I'm not quite as concerned about San Francisco. But Green Bay, I think, is dead in the water. Do you think Green Bay has anything left, or are you with me with them? That's obviously the best case scenario: 2 versus 7.
Yeah, if they don't beat the Vikings this weekend, which by the way, they're like 5.5 or something point underdogs. The Packers are to the Vikings, who've been playing better as of late. They're going to enter the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak. It's terrible. Talk about people not feeling great about this Eagles offense. I mean, the Packers, and for the third year in a row, they're the 7 seed. I mean, I think that team without Micah is just, they're dead in the water. And that's another reason why if I'm the Eagles, I'm pushing to get that 2 seed. I think that's the most ideal matchup you could possibly get in the first round.
Yeah, that Packer matchup would be a slam dunk. Now, I differ from John in that. I think that 49ers team can be a threat, BLG. I know they have a bad defense, but my whole take is like, BLG, we don't take advantage of bad defenses. It doesn't matter what defense we play. We don't really score that many points. So if that offense, where I think Kyle Shanahan is, really been masterful this year in the scheme and play calling and all of those different things, to me, I look at who matches up with the Eagles defense, the best, or maybe vice versa from their perspective. Who is the best advantage versus the Eagles defense? I think the 49ers are right there. And, that to me is I'd love to get the Seahawks, BLJ. I know that won't happen now in wild card, but I think that's a key matchup because I think the Eagles defense will get some takeaways. I don't know how you what you think of that, but That's why I struggle with teams that have bad defenses, because I'm like, do we do what you need to do versus a bad defense to really take advantage of it?
Yeah, no, I think that's like a good philosophical way to think about, like, what would you rather see if you're the Eagles, like a really good defense like that or a good offense? And yeah, I think it's like I don't think the solution, unless it's like you're playing the Raiders out there, is like, is just I don't think they're, like you said, they're not going to take it. I don't trust them to fully take advantage of a bad defense like that. So yeah, I don't know how meaningful it is. I do think, and also just that the offense has been so good for the 49ers, where they're like barely even punting in these games. They've been so efficient. Brock Purdy, looks healthy and good. They have my
attention. Will take chances though, BLG.
Sure.
And that Vic is out there luring you in with those muddy post snap looks. I could see Brock Purdy having one of those 3-4 interception games, because they will push the football down the field.
Yep.
And that's what Vic wants, +1 in the passing game. Yeah, go ahead, try it, see if it works. You might see a big Marcus Epps game, playing center field. But we'll see if that shakes out. I don't want to say fear, because I don't care that much, but if there's one team, literally one team, the only team that I think is better than the Philadelphia Eagles on the NFC side right now, even with all the problems, is the LA Rams. That's it. I think they're a better football team.
Which is funny, because again, we all know the Eagles have beaten them, but it's like, it's been close. It comes down to a blocked field goal. It comes down to like the most vulnerable the Eagles were at any point in the playoffs last year, when they're an absolute juggernaut. They almost lost to the Rams. They're like 11 or 12 yards away from the end zone there at the end of the game before Jalen Carter's sack. So like, yeah, I do think it's like they can beat them from a standpoint that they have done it, but I also think that it's not these have been very close games, and maybe the Rams just get that extra break that the next time you play them, and also are maybe just like extra motivated to finally beat the Eagles, since that's been an issue for them.
No doubt. BLG, good stuff, man. Week 18 this week, kind of a snooze fest type of game, but you got a prediction for me? You think Tanner McKee can beat Josh Johnson's Commanders?
I do. It is funny, by the way, to me, that this is like Josh Johnson's 11th career start, and his second was back against the Eagles, in 2009. And here we are, and we're going to be in 2026. It's such a weird gap.
I'm thinking about suing the NFL, BLG, for making me sit through another Josh Johnson game.
Yeah, I do think that they can beat him, starters or backups. I do think that, the Dan Quinn, we're going to avenge the loss. We didn't like that.
Oh, my God.
I mean, I kind of have to see it to believe it, I guess, that they're not going to just lay down there. But, that's on my mind. And the fact that the players didn't seem to like that 2-point conversion. Dan Quinn didn't seem to like that 2-point conversion. So, and I'm sure the Commanders are aware of what the Eagles have at stake here potentially, and maybe would relish in trying to ruin their chance at the 2 seed. But I think Tanner McKee is really good. And I do expect him to play well.
What happens, BLG, and make sure you follow Brandon on Twitter at Brandon Gouton, bleedinggreenNation.com. Check in every day. What happens if Tanner McKee throws for 280, 3-4 touchdowns, and the Eagles win this thing going away? Is there what happens to the narrative?
Well, yeah, nothing actually happens in terms of
no.
No, of course, but yes, I mean, people are absolutely going to talk about that. Are you kidding me? How could you not, from a standpoint of the offense has been so moribund, and people have been saying, some people have been saying, I want to see what Tanner McKee looks like. Yeah, so absolutely that's going to be a topic. And also watch them do, because they did this last year in week 18, where they're doing way more under center. They're doing way different.
Threw the ball 41 times last year in week 18.
Yep. So yeah, but I mean,
I think they might go. I think they might try and undercut it and just vanilla-ize it. Not give them any big looks, because they don't want to create that drama going into the postseason. I can't blame them for that.
We'll
But
see.
BLG, good stuff, man. Thanks for joining in as always. Happy New Year. I'll make sure when you're on next week
that's right.
I don't say Happy New Year to you. All right,
Yeah.
brother. Appreciate you doing it today, man. We'll talk to you soon. All right, brother.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
See you
man.
guys.
All right, thanks. There's BLG joining us right here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, I know you got to run here early today. What's on the agenda for the Birds today? Then I got one super chat to read before we get out of Dodge.
Yeah, back at work, prep for those Josh Johnson Commanders. Nick Sirianni talking a little bit earlier today, 11:20, and they have a walkthrough 3:30ish, and open locker room 4:45 for New Year's Eve. You know, probably a good idea to keep the players as late as possible. So that's what's going on today. And yeah, maybe we're not going to get to see any of practice, so we're not going to see Tanner McKee taking first team reps, but maybe some of the players will give it up. I doubt it, but maybe. You never know.
Good stuff there, J-Mac. One super chat to read here. I like this. This is a good super chat. Here's him, Bison. What's up, brother? Never mind the offense. We're going to fly to Santa Clara with the Jaybirds. Jalix, Jalen, Jordan, Jalen, and Jay Morrow. That J is silent. Look at that, John.
That J is silent. Hey, you know, Jeffrey Lurie said a couple weeks ago, championship defense. They certainly look like a championship defense. And he said the offense will come around. That's the issue. I've said it a lot. We're talking about the Rams. BLG agrees with me. That's the one team I sit and look at. All right, that might be a problem. And you know, maybe it is good to get it over with. If they beat the Rams in the first round of the playoffs, I'm going to be
look out.
Yeah, I'm going to be pretty confident this team's going to Santa Clara.
Yep, I agree. Johnny Mac, good show today, brother. Appreciate you doing it as always. I know you got Nick coming up. What's on the agenda for them tomorrow, John? They have a full day. I figure we'll do a show. Maybe we'll do an abbreviated show tomorrow, like an hour or something, maybe 9 to 10, or I'll text you with that. So we can have to handle that on the air. But what's the agenda for the Birds tomorrow? Are they doing anything with the New Year or anything like that?
Yeah, they're practicing. So not as they gave the players off on Christmas. They will not be giving the players off on New Year's, probably for the same reason I just said. Probably don't want too much merriness, shall we say, too much partaking in a certain substance.
Yeah, right. Don't be doing that. Johnny Mac, Happy New Year to you, brother. I will catch you tomorrow. I'll text you about tomorrow's show, and appreciate you doing it as always, J Mac. Your final thoughts here on a Wednesday edition of Birds 365.
Start of week 18, and boy, this is going to be a tough one for me to get through because I am not looking forward to that game on Sunday. Some ugly football.
It can't be worse than a preseason game, can it?
Woo! I'm not a Josh Johnson fan.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that they would play that dude you said. What's that dude's name? The other guy?
Sam Hartman. Oh, Sam I'd be thrilled to see Sam
That guy sounds like a wrestler.
First of all, he's got a really good beard, number one. Yeah, and at least now you've seen some of these guys play. The kid in Kansas City, Olakin, Max Brosmer, brutal. So it can probably get worse than Josh Johnson. Probably would with Sam Hartman.
Yeah,
but it's ugly football when you get these quarterbacks in there. Clayton Tune, I believe, is playing for Green Bay. I believe this weekend.
Tune. There we go.
So you're going to you might get Clayton Thune against Max Brosmer. You might get that on this weekend.
Yeah, I think we go back to 16 games. Forget 18. Let's go the other way.
For old people like me, go back to 14.
Yeah, that's what they used to play. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, John. Good show, man. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, brother?
All right. See y'all. Thanks.
Happy New Year, man. Later. All right, there's Johnny Mac, John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Appreciate him doing it. I don't got a lot of time here on Zander time today. I got my whole family together for the New Year. As you can hear probably in my background, I got dogs, you got babies, you got kids, you got brothers, you got sisters. So we're all together. Appreciate all you guys. I want to thank everybody for a great 2025, man. You guys, you really showed out. I really appreciate all of you guys for watching, for listening, for liking, sharing, and subscribing every single day. One of the great things I get to do is go back and forth with you guys every single day talking football. So I do appreciate each and every one of you. We had some big moments in 2025, not only us here on JAKIB, but also as Eagles fans. You know, we had a parade on Broad Street this year in February. I'm sure all of you remember that well. They won the Super Bowl in early February as well, and they've had a lot of great things happen. So I hope everybody has a great new year. Happy New Year to all of you guys. We will be live later on today with the National Football Show. I believe Sills said he's got the Battle Royale. So for the Battle Royale lovers, you'll get that today. Maybe I'll get Sills out of there just a little bit early because I know he's got his Miami team tonight. So appreciate all you guys for watching. As always, you know I love each and every one of you. Hit the like button on your way out. See you next time, everybody.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.